Welcome back to Legends Live, presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association, the official home of NBA and WNBA legends. Now, as you can already see, today's another Chat with Gat. We have Kenny Gattison on Legends Live with us. How's it going, Kenny?
It's going great, Bridget. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Is it another beautiful day in Charlotte?
Yes, it is. Cooled off a bit, 80 degrees and sunny.
Good. So, Kenny, quick question for you. When you've brought on your, fellow legends and some current NBA guys, you usually ask them, like, what have you been doing during quarantine? So I think we all want to know, what has Kenny Gattison been doing during quarantine to keep yourself and your family entertained and also to stay sane?
Well, the biggest part of it is staying sane because I got to jump on this because I've been working from home. I relocated from Chicago to Charlotte in November of 2018. So
yeah, you broke our hearts.
I know, but I had to get back home to my family, and but it's been a different experience, and I would say the biggest thing is I think we're all accustomed to some interruption in life or in work or in things happen. So as a player, you get traded and you think your world is turned upside down. And then you get to a new city and you're like, wow, this is great. As a coach, you better believe the day you've hired, you're going to be fired or not brought back or whatever. So in the NBA life, you're used to the disruptions that come with the profession. But this has been totally different because the entire country shut down. Mm-hmm. So you go from working in an office 9 to 5 to going home to work. And now you're like, there's nowhere to go. I can't take a lunch break. I have to work 9 to 12 and then make a salad or a sandwich and eat in my house and go back to work. So I think the biggest thing that caught everybody off guard was the pandemic, but it's almost like throwing a pebble in a pond. It might take a while, but the ripples will reach the shoreline. So I think when everybody came to grip with what the pandemic really consists of, and then no, you can't go to the movies, you can't go bowling, you can't go work out at the gym, you got to stay home because nothing's open. I think that's when a whole lot of people started feeling the constrictions of the pandemic. And, there was a whole lot of metrics they put out there. And, God knows, thank God my kids were older and gone and graduated from college. I'd hate to have to work from home and homeschool 2 or 3 kids now. You talking about walking the plank. I'd be out on the roof like, I think I can fly. So I think all in all, we're coming out of this thing, and hopefully everybody's got their sanity. And, I can tell you one thing for me, the red wine and the cigar budget has got thrown way out of whack.
So you're switching to red wine. Okay.
No, I'm still a beer guy. I'm still a beer guy, but I can't drink beer. I'm getting older now. And, I think about working out more than I actually work out. So, it's like when the pandemic started, I'm walking and running and da-da-da-da. Yeah.
So
I go to the mailbox right about now.
That's how you get your steps in.
Yeah, I'm getting them in.
So I know you're not on social media. We at the NBRPA created a Twitter handle for you, but we're still trying to get you onto that. So I don't think you've seen these videos that like Kendall Gill and Tim Hardaway have been posting, where they're challenging each other in the like this exercise club. I think it's called like the 60-40 club or something, and it's a whole cycle, I think, for 30 days. And these guys are getting after it. And Kendall and Tim are recruiting more people to do it. So I don't think you're going to join that club, right?
Well, I can tell you this. I played with Kendall and I know Tim Hardaway for a long time. They both know me well enough not to call me talking about getting in an exercise club. And, you know, especially Kendall. Kendall is, you know, he's absolutely a physical specimen, and his workout level. And, you know, Tim Hardaway, you know, like myself, Tim had major knee surgery during his career. And I'm really surprised that he's, you know, going as hard as he is, because, you know, I had a knee reconstruction in '87, and I got 2 screws on a guitar wire in my knee. I had my neck fused in '94. I had 2 back surgeries 3 years after I retired. So me getting out here and doing this combat training or whatever in the world they doing, I no, it's not going to happen. I know what I can do now. And it's like one of those things, just stay in your lane. If you want to run some 40s and some 60s and do all of this tire lifting, let me know the name and the time of the location. I'm going to bring a lawn chair and a cooler with some beer and water in it. And I got you all day. The next time I run a 60, it'll be going down the highway with somebody pulling me. It wouldn't know. No sprints left in his body. So I wish them all the best. They gonna end up in damn surgery.
Well, I'm glad you're at least getting your steps in daily to the mailbox. Keep that up, Kenny.
Yep.
So let's pivot a little bit. A lot of news coming out of the basketball world this week. A leak happened late Tuesday night, and people started sharing on social media what some of the rules and protocols for the bubble in down in Orlando is going to be for the NBA guys. So wanted to get your take on a few of those things. One of the ones that got a lot of traction is the fact that there will be an anonymous hotline where players in the bubble can call in and report on other players in the bubble who are violating any of the rules. What do you think about that one?
That hotline is going to blow up.
Really?
During the regular season, it won't, whatever the 8 regular season games. And I don't know what the enforcement is going to be, but you better believe they're going to have people calling that hotline when they got to play the Lakers in the playoffs or the Milwaukee Bucks. They seen LeBron and Giannis out at a gathering. They didn't have on a mask. They were standing on top of each other. So that's something that I don't know who the powers that be that thought about a hotline. It's going to turn out to be a snitch line. So everybody going to be calling and saying this person was at Disney Park and I saw him riding a Space Mountain and with 20 other people. That's not a good one.
Yeah, because I heard that, you know, everybody thinks like, oh, they're going to be at Disney. They're playing at Disney. That's great. Their families can go. And like, no, they're not supposed to go to the park at all. Like, that's not in the bubble. But I was reading an interesting thing. Disney was very proud to announce that all of the players and staff in the bubble are going to get the I don't know what they call them, but I guess Disney World has like trackers that you wear on your wrist and gets you access to stuff. And basically it's Disney Big Brother, keeping track of people. But like they're going to have all those on. And I don't know if it's a requirement or if you can elect to do that. But would you wear a Disney tracker on your wrist, Kenny, if you were still playing in the game today?
That's like asking me would I wear a house arrest ankle on a monitor on my ankle. Hell no, I would cut it off, bite it off, whatever, it's coming off. And this is the thing that's going to be almost laughable. These guys have been quarantined for 2.5 months. And even though that Disney property is massive and it's going to be a great setup, and I don't know who came up with the term bubble, but this is what I'll tell you. You have a slew of millionaires. And if you think you're going to tell them what they can and can't do after they've been quarantined, the greatest advice my college coach gave me when I started coaching, he said, Coach Gattison, do not have a lot of rules because you'll have to enforce them. And rule number one, it doesn't matter what time you say the bus is leaving, don't ever let the bus leave until your best player is on that bus. So all of these rules are going to be torn to shreds because you're talking about young millionaires. They already been quarantined for months. They've been on lockdown. They've been homeschooling. They've been working out in their home gyms. And now they get to come to Disney. And the state of Florida is pretty much open up. And then you have the NBA rules. You're talking about two sets of rules. The state of Florida is open. The bars and the restaurants are open. The NBA going to have these rules for this bubble. Okay. There have been negotiations and renegotiations, and they've been going back and forth about how we get back playing. I promise you, if 15 of the stars rent out a whole movie theater or rent out a whole restaurant and say, we getting out this bubble, we going to treat ourselves to dinner, they're not going to do a thing about it because at the end of the day, the players have to play. And whether they break a rule or not, the only thing that can't happen if somebody tests positive for COVID-19, then they got to go in the real bubble. But other than that, all of that other rule is circumstantial hearsay because they're going to break the rules and you'll never hear about it. So it's going to be the TMZ is going to be flying drones with cameras over Disney. See, there's a whole lot of things that these people that sit in a conference room, people that sit at the long table that don't actually do the job, they the worst ones to ever make decisions because they don't know. When you want to talk about how you get out of a prison, you need to talk to the prisoners. So TMZ gonna have drones flying over that bubble, and it's gonna be footage after day 3 of guys getting in limos and hopping over, somebody picking them up. It's gonna be laughable, but let the games go on. That's all I say.
All right. And one last question about the bubble for you before we pivot to something else. On an earlier episode, I forget who you were talking with, but it was about how nowadays in the NBA, there's just all of this focus, well, in other sports too, but on these super teams, right? And you're getting all of these star players to come together and be on one team, and they're pretty much unstoppable. You pretty much already know who's going to win the championship at the beginning of the year. And it kind of like, it kind of takes away that grittiness of, older times where like anything could basically happen. So one of the things that they're going to have in the bubble, and let me make sure I read this off right. In the hotels, so apparently they're staying at 3 different hotels that the teams are going to be split up into. And at each hotel, there's going to be a players only lounge where there are TVs, NBA 2K, other games like the ping pong where they can only play each other in singles. But you're now having these guys who are on other teams probably spending recreational time all together in this players only lounge. Do you think this is going to help with relationship building and like them trying to figure out the way to play with each other and be like the next super team? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's go back to the first part of your question, and whether people realize it, there were always super teams. The Lakers had Magic, Kareem, and Worthy, 3 Hall of Famers. Boston had Bird, McHale, Parrish, 3 Hall of Famers. San Antonio, David, Timmy, and you can throw in another 1 or 2, Parker, Ginobili, they'll be Hall of Famers. The difference is teams did it organically. They did it through the draft. They did it through player development. You would have never caught Larry Bird playing for the Lakers, or vice versa. You'd have never caught Magic Johnson playing for the Celtics.
I can't picture that.
There were always super teams. You can go back to the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. What do you think the Chicago Bulls was? George Pippen. And then you throw in, you got Horace Grant. You have, and then Dennis Rodman come over from the Pistons. So this super team thing, this is nothing new. It's just that in today's era, players become free agents. And truly unlike the NFL, baseball and the NBA, when you're a free agent, you're a true free agent. But just out of just sheer disdain for the other team, you would have never caught Magic or Bird playing for the Celtics or the enemy, so-called. Once the enemy, always the enemy. But yeah, it's going to be, and the league's changed, business changed, the model has changed because guys were not frenemies in the off season. You didn't get, players. I would say that the only 2 guys back in the 90s that were truly friends, and everybody knew it, but they've been friends from a long time ago, Magic and Isaiah. I mean, those guys' friendship goes back, it was, and they were the first 2 guys to openly acknowledge their friendship for each other, and but they were still trying to beat each other's
Exactly.
brains out. And
not to interrupt you, but we have a special guest that just joined the studio. But I do want to say thank you for clarifying that, because my question you hit the nail on the head when you said super teams have only been around, but they happened organically. Now we're seeing players being very vocal and trying to be strategic of how the players themselves can create these super teams. But let's bring on Mike James to Legends Live. Hey there, Mike. How's it going?
Mike James, how are you?
How you doing?
Good, man. How are you? How's it going?
Apologies. I was having technical difficulties.
Hey, that's all right. It happens to the best. So how's it going, man? How you been during quarantine and lockdown?
Oh, man, won't complain. Able to spend, quality time with family. I think that when you're going through like life, you will find yourself just basically living and passing by. Even in relationships, you gain such a rhythm of life that you can almost forget really about relationships, about even with your kids. And so being inside, it really showed me how important the relationships that I have are, and also how to hone in on them and really start trying to shape them and taking advantage of it also.
Yeah, well, that's a great point you make, because when you're in the house every day, all day, with what's been going on in this country, you'll be better served trying to figure out how to make things better than sitting around complaining and making things worse. So I think that's a good point of view to have there. So let's just jump right into it, since we got you on a little late. Let's talk about a couple topics. And you had a nice long career. You won a championship with the Pistons, and you played overseas. So you really had a real journeyman experience in the NBA, but nothing like what's happened now with a work stoppage and to go back to play in a bubble, so to speak. Try to put yourself in players today situation. You've been off 2 months, no basketball. All of a sudden now they're kickstarting the league and they starting to say, we're going to go back and play July 1st. And now you got to go back. You already trained for training camp one time. Now you got to start back with the mental, physical condition, everything that goes in to get ready for NBA season. How would you approach this restart of the season from a physical point and from a mental point, like these guys have to do now?
I mean, personally, if I was in that position this season and I was still playing, I would have been doing stuff like during the whole time that that the pandemic was going on and we was quarantined and wasn't allowed to. I'd have figured out a workout for myself that I would have got a regimen off of. And I don't think a lot of ball players are doing that. I think they took advantage of being quarantined and as a rest period, resting their body, and however other ways that they decided to like not think of basketball, and then have to transition your mind again to get back and hurry up and get back in shape this time, and now play the game in front of no fans, almost like a summer league type, not even really a summer league atmosphere, not even really an AAU, because you have fans at an AAU game. Like this is
Right.
going to be, it's going to be a mental. I think this is going to be mentally. It's going to be tough for guys to really get up for back-to-backs and get up for these games. Maybe the first couple of games might be fun, but then you have to almost have to look at it and take it serious, and then a guy have to like hit you on the shoulder, like, come on, this is for the eighth spot. Like, you got to remember that this ain't just like a kiddie game, or we're not playing pickup. Like, we're really trying to get we trying to gain momentum, trying to win a championship on this shortened season. And so I think it's going to be injuries. I think people that normally wouldn't get hurt probably, hopefully you don't never prey on injury on no one. But I don't think that you can put your body through what we put our bodies through and then stop and then try to get it back to that type of level of playing, and then try to tell the athlete to play at a playoff level, without and been resting. That's going to be difficult, and it's going to be some ugly basketball early. And I don't know if it's going to be as satisfying to bring the game back this fast as people think that it's going to be.
Yeah, you made an excellent point there, because the fan experience during an NBA game is something that gets you going. It gets your juices flowing. It gets you, you know, motivated. You could be playing a road game and miss 5 shots in a row, and then one fan yell out something to you that just piss you off, and now you get in that zone and you start lighting them up. So I think you're absolutely right that going back playing without fans is going to be totally different. And I do anticipate some ugly basketball because just like you said, you've had to get ready twice to play one season. And I think you're right. And knock on wood, let's hope no one gets injured and they play this thing out and the best team wins the championship. And let's segue right into another topic that's been, front and center in the country, since we're on a compressed time slot here. Let's talk about the it's not a conversation anymore. It's a movement. The social injustice that's been rampant in this country for hundreds of years, the police brutality, the things that us as Black people, African American people of color, we've known it to been true. But now, through technology, through social media, not only the country, but the world is seeing the social injustices, the discrimination, the racism that's been perpetrated in this country for hundreds of years and covered up. You can't cover it up anymore. How has this conversation gone within your household, with your kids, with your friends? It's a conversation it can't be ignored now. 35, 45 years ago, I remember my parents and people, shh, don't talk about that. Don't talk about. Now, it's not taboo to talk about it anymore. How is the conversations in your home and around you in your life? How have they changed now?
One, I think that we have to understand that they've always looked at us as just hired help, and not even really hired help, help that's going to force labor. They've always looked at us as this, they're going to build the country, they're going to do, but we don't have to pay them, but everything is going to be built off their back. So we've always been inferior. So then Martin Luther King and, segregation, and then the marches for our rights, because we were tired of there being a white water faucet and a black water faucet, and there being a white bathroom and a black bathroom. So we felt like the only way that we can, let the world know what's going on is if we march. And yet they still looked at us like dogs. They still shot us down, sprayed us with water hoses. And here it is, 2020, and we going through the same thing that we've been going through, and we've been fighting for the same thing for years. The only difference is there's only one water faucet. We all go to the same schools. We all have the almost same opportunities financially when it comes to success stories. We don't really, a lot of African Americans come from first generation success instead of coming from being trust fund babies. And so now we feel like there's been strides that we've made over these years, but yet we've never been equal. It went from being an overseer to an officer. It went from, and so now the thing that we can do is we can educate those that don't know and help those that do know understand that lifestyle is outdated. What your great-great-grandparents been teaching, the Confederate flag, this lifestyle that blacks are inferior. No, there are a lot of geniuses. You got to understand that life is, you can no longer think like that. They call us ignorant, but yet we continue to keep striving in life, showing them how successful, not just financially, we can be, but as far as to society. But we'll always, because of the mindset of us being inferior to them, they will always look at us like this. So what we got to do is teach our kids. We got to teach our kids to be the next doctors, lawyers, the next judges, not just the next LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. We got to teach them to understand that you have to be an asset to society. When the police pull you over, you know the objective is to get those lights off you. Understand your rights, I get it. But you know what? Things are so fragile right now and so hostile. It's not about trying to show up the police right now, because guess what? We're going to be the ones on the losing stick. I've never been the type of person when I've gotten pulled over. I was always respectful, because all my life I've been afraid of the police. Like, there's two things in this world that I've always feared, and that was Jesus Christ returning and saying, "I don't know you, be gone from me," and the police. And that's what we in my neighborhood. This is how we was raised. We was raised to fear the police, because we've always looked at them as a generation away from an overseer who used to look over the slaves and beat them when they felt like they was out of order. Well, the police officers, they took on that same characteristic.
Well, I think you made some excellent points, and so much of the conversation that's being had today is addressing just those issues that you said. And one of the things that I have been paying close attention to in this movement, and our country is a sports country. America loves their sport heroes. And I think now, whereas in 2016 that Kaepernick didn't get a lot of support, I think now our white sports stars, they're understanding what the messaging was back then, what he was trying to say. Now you look at the people that are protesting peacefully, there's a lot of white people out there. You look at our country as a whole in the last 35, 40 years, you got a lot of people that's got their Confederate flag in their home. They got a biracial grandchild somewhere. And I think that the white sports star, the entertainers, the senators, the congressmen, people are starting to speak up and say, no, we are equal, and yes, Black lives matter, but all lives matter, and I think from a view from a sporting advantage, there's some education going on, because I think some of these guys are starting to figure out they're not racist, but when they have to articulate their point of view on a racist issue, they get it wrong. You've seen, the Drew Brees episode. One thing that I, because I'm here in Charlotte, I think the quarterback for Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, I think he's done an absolutely fantastic job of speaking up and holding his ground, saying, I stand behind equality and what's right. So give me your point of view as a guy that's on the younger end of a retiring NBA player, not quite a millennial, but you're not an old head like me. So what do you see as far as the improvements? Let's go back to 2016, where Cap absolutely couldn't get any support until now, 4 years later, 2020. I think Cap actually, he took the bottle cap off the bottle and turned it upside down, and now the waters are flowing freely.
You know, I think there's always been sports athletes that have taken on, roles as advocates for, races, from the Muhammad Ali's. LeBron James, he speaks up. And so for what Colin did in that time, he was basically showing like, yo, police brutality been around, but we tired of having to face police brutality every single day. And now, because of police brutality, you know, the white guy we might get in trouble for the same exact thing, but I may get killed or 10 years, and he may get probation. And this has been going on, and all Cap was doing was expressing like, yo, there has to be some type of equality in our system, in which there is obviously, the system has failed us for years. And it's about time for it not just to be equal rights, it has to be equal rights across the board. It just can't be equal where you decide where you want us to have equal rights, and then where you say, no, we're going to keep the noose on you extremely hard in this area. No, it has to be equal across the board. And I think that what he was expressing was that in itself, in the kneeling. Like, it's not no disrespect to the flag, no disrespect to the nation. It's just disrespect to the system. Like, the system has failed, and we're tired of having to live under these rules and this regime, and we're still in the same place that we was 50, 100, 200 years ago.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And, I'm glad you touched on the point of the issue was never about the flag. And that's where you get a lot of racists that want to wrap themselves up in the American flag, but they're still racist, And as African Americans, we never asked for any special treatment. We never asked for any favors. All we asked for is give us a chance. And I think now, more so than anything, as we see through the time, these where you didn't see this 4 or 5 years ago. Now these officers that are committing these crimes, they're being charged. So that's already an improvement. We can see an improvement right now today.
Truth. I think that's a major improvement. I think because of technology, like you touched on earlier, we wasn't filming. Like, everything gets filmed now. Before they'll help you, they'll film you. And I guess that works out. It worked out in this case, because it's not that the George Brown issue was the major problem. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. It had nothing to do. It could have been any black person. It was just, we are sick and tired of hearing the same exact story. And there's nothing, no one is being punished. No one is being persecuted, but yet here's another black life that is lost, and it's being washed away, and there's no justice being done for it. And for the main reason, why are we still going through this? Why do you still feel like you have to hurt me because of the way I look? Not because of what I say, not because of what I do, but because of you thinking that my skin this is dirt, and I am a dirty person, instead of this being who I am naturally.
Well, yeah, I think that this is 2020 is going to go down in the history's book as one of the most iconic years in the civilization of this country. And I don't even know, I can't wait till the books are written, because while you live in it, you're trying to understand it and organize it in your head. So I can't wait to see what the history books say about 2020. Well, Bridget, while we're here and we've been on for a little over 45 minutes now, are there any questions that any viewers have sent in that Mike and I can touch on?
Yeah, we do. So Travis Allen from Facebook chimed in with this question for Mike. Who was your favorite teammate you ever played with and why? And then second part, what are you up to now, Mike?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear that last part. Hello? Breaking up.
Mike, the question was, who was your favorite teammate that you've ever played with, and what are you up to now, from Travis Allen from Facebook?
Oh, wow. My favorite teammate I've ever played with was probably Bonzi Wells. I think that, I thought that was pretty funny.
They didn't see that coming.
No one probably expected that one. Yeah, they didn't see that coming. But that was one of my favorite teammates right there. And, I was able to build a relationship with him. One of the best players I probably played with during my time as a basketball player was probably Tracy McGrady. He was probably one of the best players I played then. Now I own a development company. I build homes, about to start a big major project now. Also, I'm a boxing promoter. I manage a few professional fighters and a few other businesses that I'm involved in.
Well, that's nice to know. I mean, I had the opportunity to coach you, and I know what a class guy you are. I know what your work ethic is. I know exactly how tenacious you are when it comes to your personal business, and you change the arenas from the basketball sneaks. Now you going out here and conquer this construction empire and some boxing promoting and things of that nature. But once again, man, appreciate having you on, taking the time to spend with us on Legends Live, and wish you and your family all the best. Stay safe, and wish you all the best with your business endeavors. And make sure you get a chance to come back on with us again.
Thank you. Anytime. Just let me know.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.
You take care. Thank you, Gat. Thank you, Coach. I got to call you Coach. All my coaches that I've coached or played for, they'll coach forever. We be 60, 100 years old. Hey,
yeah,
Coach.
I'm still Coach Gat. All right. Thanks, man.
That's right. Take care.
All right.
Well, Kenny, thanks for chatting with Mike there, and thanks for chatting with me while we figured out Mike's technical difficulties. I appreciate that, and I think the viewers probably really enjoyed hearing your take on some of the stuff that might be happening down at the bubble. But I'm going to close it out for today. We look forward to having you all join us back here next week on Legends Live, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. If you would like to watch any of the previously recorded episodes, including today's conversation, me chatting with Gat, and then Gat chatting with Mike James, you can go to legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive. And until next week, as always, please take care of each other and be well.